I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Happy Saturday. Happy New Year to everyone as well. I know you guys have missed me for the last couple of Saturdays. I took a break for vacation, for Christmas break, as you guys, oh no, I always do. Hope you guys as well were able to, if you weren't traveling, at least take some time off from work. As you guys know, I talk about optimizing your life. And some of my mentors have taught me this about, you know, when you really want to, when you're working, you're focused, you're enthusiastic, positive attitude, and you're 100% into your work, which I am. But when it's time to take a break, you put it all to the side and focus on relaxing, spending time with your family, having a bit of fun. And that is so important in life. It's not all about working and you know, nose to the grindstone all the time. You've got to take breaks. That's what helps keep you on your path towards success. And you know, I enjoy, I think I've told you guys, I take 4 or 5 breaks every year, pretty consistently. Sometimes it might only be for 5 or 6 days. Other times I take some longer trips in the summer. I went to Europe this past summer, and then I took 16, 17 days off here at Christmas. So I hope you guys took some time off too. Super important. So wanted to have this blog here with a book review. It's been a while since I've given you guys one of these, but I've read a couple of really great books. I'm always reading. As you guys know, I've talked about this many times. You know, you never want to stop learning, no matter where you are in life. Always try and get a little bit better. I always reflect at Christmas time on my past year for my real estate business, my investments in the stock market, my real estate portfolio. Some years are incredible, other years aren't as good. But I always, as long as I always tried to get a little better, learned a little bit more, got a little bit better in my real estate career, became a little better as an investor, which I'm always trying to do, learning some new things, staying in shape, that kind of thing. So even if financially, for instance, this year, my stock portfolio was down substantially, terrible year in the stock market. My real estate business, it's pretty steady. It's always good. Sold pretty much as many houses this last year as I did the year before. I'll be a Medallion Club top 2 or 3% in the business, top producer at my brokerage. But I also look at it in other ways, as I say, getting enough sleep, exercise, staying in shape, and just trying to get a little bit better knowledge-wise. It never stops. You should enjoy it. So I probably read, I've told you guys, probably 10, 15 books in a good year. I just finished reading a couple here in December that I wanted to promote to you guys here. So this book by William Green, Richer, Wiser, Happier, How the World's Greatest Investors Win in Markets and in Life. Boy, I really love this book. One of the best business and investing books I've read in many years. That's why I'm promoting it here. So if you guys remember, last year I recommended The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Sorry, I don't have the book with me here. I gave it away. I read these books and I usually gift them to people because I want them to read them too. That Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, must read. This one I strongly recommend. This William Green also has a podcast, and I just started getting into his podcast. It's excellent. So he interviews a bunch of top private equity money managers in this book. A couple of these guys are extremely low-key that you probably never heard of. One guy by the name of Nick Sleep. He's retired now. He was only in the business. He's a private equity guy, managed money for about 14 or 15 years, managed to compound at 20 or 25% a year every single year he was in business, retired in his late 50s. But he's a legend, this Nick Sleep guy, and never gave interviews or anything like that during his career. So a really good interview with him. And on that note, you know, you'll notice that a lot of these guys are not going to be household names. The reason being is that they don't do media. You know, the real, you know, sure, Warren Buffett gives some interviews here and there. But the real successful money men, rarely you're going to see in the pages of the Wall Street Journal or written up in Barron's or anything else. They're too busy making money, and they don't have time. The ones you do see on CNBC and in Bloomberg, a lot of times these guys are not worth following. They're entertainers. They're gotten on TV to try and promote themselves, and the information a lot of times they're giving away isn't very good. But I strongly recommend this book. In a nutshell, all these guys will tell you that if you're an individual investor, best thing to do is probably just index invest and call it a day. Buy the S&P 500, maybe buy some a diversified basket of ETFs, maybe an emerging markets or a European ETF. Buy in Canada the XIC or the XEI, the Triple Q, VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund. I really like maybe the Schwab High Dividend or the Vanguard High Dividend, and that's all you're really going to need. If you really want to get into individual stock ownership, and I've do some of that, you better put in the time. What a lot of these guys would tell you is you're not buying numbers, or you're not buying what you're buying here is companies. You're buying businesses, and always focus on that. That's what I do. You want to understand what you own, so that when I buy Apple or when I buy Macdonald's, I'm sharing in every hamburger and every Happy Meal, and I own a piece of all their real estate. You want to buy good, tangible businesses, and hopefully run by good managers, good CEOs. But you've got to do your due diligence on it. But the bottom line here in this book, for a lot of investors like you and I, just index invest. And on that front, I've told you guys 50%, 50 cents of every dollar I invest is straight into the indexes. And I'm slowly now over the years kind of concentrating my individual stocks. I sold a couple of companies last year. I did not add to any new holdings. I just topped up on the ones that I currently held, like the Apples and the Googles and the Johnson & Johnsons. But over the next few years, I'm going to kind of refine that even more to probably a core group of maybe 20 individual companies. I own all the Canadian banks, Bell Canada, TELUS, Enbridge, and then companies like Johnson & Johnson and Apple and Google and Home Depot and Costco. But again, index investing will do the job for most of you. And but I really highly recommend this book. Nick Sleep, he talks about, if you really want to become a better investor, get rid of your TV set. And how many times have I told you guys about that? I got rid of my TV set a long time ago. I don't watch the news, probably one of the worst things you can do. I really limit my financial news as well. I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. I've got some email investment newsletters that I subscribe to. But he basically says, the CNBCs and the Bloombergs and the Fox Business, it's all just for entertainment purposes only. He has a funny story in here about being a money manager. You have to have a Bloomberg terminal. Bloomberg terminal, it's about $27,000 a year. It gives you all the myriad of information on individual companies and the P's and all kinds of other data. But he doesn't rely on it. And what he does is he keeps it out in the hallway on a low table, so that to look at it, occasionally he has to stoop down, and it's not very comfortable, so that he limits himself to 4 or 5 minutes. Most of his research is done on studying companies, studying CEOs, buying businesses. He talks about Costco, one of the best businesses around. He's owned it from the beginning, still owns it in retirement. I've owned Costco for probably 12 years. Incredibly well-run company. Those are the kind of businesses you want to own. Recommend this book. Huge. Another interesting one, just a light reading book I read on Isidore Sharp, Izzy Sharp, the CEO and founder of Four Seasons Hotel. The reason I like this book, it's an incredible Canadian success story. The Four Seasons, the story of a business philosophy by Isidore Sharp. I bought this on Amazon used. I think I paid $6 for it. You guys know I buy a lot of my books used on Amazon, cheap, free shipping. I think Richer, Wiser, Happier, I paid full price, about $25, but it's worth it. But a really great success story. I grew up in Toronto, so Isidore Sharp, or Izzy, was a pretty well-known name, especially since my dad was in real estate. So we knew of him, but a lot of people don't know about Isidore Sharp. I mean, Four Seasons, probably the greatest hotel brand there is out there, one of the most prestigious. Started it from nothing in Toronto with a motor hotel, and grew it into the colossus that it is now, one of the most recognized luxury brands there is in the world. And really good story of just persistence, hard work. He took some pretty big risks. A lot of these successful guys, you read their autobiographies, they do take risk. Big success sometimes can come with risk. He was close to becoming insolvent several times and was lucky. Interesting Vancouver story in here. you guys will get a kick out of with Vancouver City Hall. One of his biggest regrets was dealing with Vancouver City Hall and trying to call their bluff. Back in the late 70s, where the Westin Bayshore is now, that was going to be a Four Seasons. It was going to be a Four Seasons hotel with a couple of luxury condo towers. And it was going to be his biggest project at that point. He had all the financing secured, got the land, everything. 1 week before he was ready to put a shovel in the ground to start, Vancouver City Hall came to him and said, you know what, you're too close to Stanley Park. We want you to move the project 100 yards up the street. 100 yards, a football field. And Izzy said, that's going to cost me millions of dollars to move everything. The surveys, the everything else. I've got to put construction on hold. This is going to cost me millions of dollars. To move it 100 yards doesn't make any sense. City Hall said basically move it or we'll call a plebiscite and we will cancel your project. Izzy called their bluff on it, didn't want to do it. Construction was ready to start, and Vancouver City Hall pulled the rug out from under him and pulled everything. And he still says that was probably one of his biggest regrets. He should have just moved the project, paid the money, and the delays and everything else. And that, as you guys know, turned out, I guess, 3 or 4 years later. It was developed by Westin, and it's been there ever since. So, interesting Vancouver story. Talks about the Vancouver Four Seasons here, but lots of great stories. It's just a good success story, a Canadian success story. So I highly recommend that book as well. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next week.